K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks. Well, it is Tuesday. It is Tuesday, June 30th, 2015. A little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll be opening the phone lines here in just a moment. I actually want to try to see if we can bring in some local interest for a little bit, because there was a recent ruling actually effective today from the Oklahoma Supreme Court in regards to a monument that was erected on the courthouse steps. Now, that monument was not made with any public funding. It was done by donation, and I will give you my opinion here in a little bit, depending on whether or not we get any calls. I'll either give it to you a little sooner than I expected, or maybe a little bit later than I expect. But at this point, this is America Off the Rails. You are listening right here on K98Talk.com. For those of you listening for the first time, you could be hearing us on either AMFM247.com, SACADS Radio, through SHR Media, or also even now Red State Radio. Now, AMFM247.com carries this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is usually a toss-up as to which one I send them, so I just want to start mentioning them on every single one. Red State Radio, and I'm sorry, that's 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. Red State Radio carries this show beginning this Sunday at 6 in the morning for the hour. It is only one carry a week, so again, it will be a bit of a toss-up as to which episode they get, so they're going to get some more coverages, since I usually wind up sending the ones over that get the best numbers to the other affiliates. And then, of course, we are also available through our home station, K98Talk.com, through our home network, the Spark Radio Network, available through iHeart, TuneIn Radio whenever the station is broadcasting live, and a plethora of other places. At this point, they're actually getting too numerous to name. As odd as it is for me to say that, it is getting to the point where it's very difficult to keep up. But since I did get a late start, the GM hat took precedent for a second, or the PD hat, took precedent for a second. One of these days, the guy that actually is the general manager is going to get mad at me for continuing to call myself that. But anyway, my PD hat took precedent for a few minutes, and I was actually on a phone call. So we got a late start. So we're going to go commercial-free for the first half hour. We're going to do that by mentioning one of our newest sponsors, which is concealandcarry.net. Pretty easy to find. Conceal, the letter N, then carry.net. They are a nationwide network of arms retailers, course offers, and they basically can get you information no matter where you live, anywhere in the 50 states, about places to get good deals on ammunition, on weaponry, and even your concealed carry permit. So I do recommend looking them up, and you can do so by visiting their website, which is sounds exactly like I just said it. Again, it's the word conceal, the letter N, then carry.net. Want to give a big shout out to those folks. It is an honor to be listed over there with them, and at some point I'll actually have an extra 5 minutes so I can get that listing put together. It's just been one of those weeks. Speaking of which, I don't want to go into too much detail, but another little bit of housekeeping. We actually have a group of sponsors actually reviewing us again right now. There have been times this has gone well. There have been times this has not gone well. So for those of you who listen on a regular basis, and for those of you who are pulling for us, I ask you to start doing whatever it is that you can do, whether it's prayers, positive energy, lighting a candle, whatever floats your boat as far as getting positive energy flowing in our direction. Please make sure that you start doing that, because it at this point, if we are looking at the potential of this actually finally turning the corner and becoming a full-fledged business. So just make sure that you keep the positive thoughts flowing our way. And of course, if we do get picked up by them, you'll know it immediately, because a lot of the commercials that we play will change. So just stay tuned. But yeah, so at this point, it's a little bit earlier, and like I said, I don't know if anybody's going to call in or not, because we don't open the phone lines here that often. But there were a lot of folks that were on a thread that the general manager was actually paying attention to earlier. So he had suggested that we open the phone lines. So as of right now, go ahead and do consider them open. If you are listening, you can call in at 408-681-8255. Again, that's 408-681, and it actually spells out talk, so it's usually pretty easy to remember. Now, lots of stuff going on. Lots of things going on. Governor Christie, I think, if he hasn't made his announcement yet, I know he plans to at some point. I hadn't heard on the news whether he's made it official yet, but I can just imagine all the people that are like, oh, look, if we get him elected, all we've got to do is fold him a box of Twinkies, and we can get pretty much anything we want to get done. Okay, this is coming from another fat kid, so don't judge. But the simple fact of the matter is, dude, how much willpower do you not have? Can we just be real for a second? How much willpower do you not have? It's pretty easy to say that most likely, if he's elected president, a box of Krispy Kremes and anybody's going to get what they want. Not that that's much better than what's been going on with Obama, trust me, because, I've even got friends that are liberals, and folks that work with me that are liberals, that are all kinds of freaked out over this TPP thing. So I'm just glad to see that people are finally starting to pay attention to it. Just wish it wouldn't have been so late in the game, because I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do about it now. One of the things that I've noticed Ted Cruz putting out a lot is, wouldn't it be great to have a president who basically would do what he could to get rid of Obamacare within his first few weeks in office? And I'm thinking, that's really, really great. It's a great idea, and I like it, because, Obamacare is not doing half of what they said it was going to do, and the other half that it is doing, it's not doing the way they said it was going to. So it's only working about 50% of the time, and it's not working properly for that 50% of the time. So that's a great concept, is let's rework that. Let's either remove it and find something that works better, or we could focus on TPP and TPA, because that is too much power moving to the executive branch. And the scary thing about it is, if you're not paying attention to it, you really need to go back and pay attention to the little bits of information that you can find for it if you know where to look. Because, and this is going to be one of my tinfoil hat moments, it really is, but this gives us the possibility of coming under the control of a world court. And for anybody that starts screaming about how they said the same thing when NAFTA passed and it didn't ever happen, I beg to differ. Because if you'll notice, in a lot of our fast food commercials, it now says 100% North American beef. I wonder why that is. Because we passed a bunch of country of origin labeling stuff, and we're not using it. And now Congress is voting to remove country of origin labeling. I wonder why that is. Could that be because a world court has told them that we can't do that because it harms international trade? I wonder. So there's that. There's the fact that these are dockable agreements, which means that once someone is in the agreement, they have the right, should someone else want to become part of the agreement, to cast a vote as to whether or not they get to be part of the agreement. And it's a majority rule situation, which means we're going to be dealing with people that, by our own rules and regulations, we have chosen not to deal with in the past, because we are not going to have a choice any longer. So you tell me how much longer America is going to remain a free country. All right, so no one's called in yet, so we do need to go ahead and take a really quick break, get some of the housekeeping stuff out of the way, and then we will see if anyone does call in. If not, I will move forward with giving you my take on the few things that we are going to be talking about today. All right, folks, as we go to break, I have a question. Are you in the market for a dependable used vehicle? Because if so, I know somewhere you need to check out today. They're located in Pryor, Oklahoma. It is Roberts Auto Chevy, Roberts Auto Dodge, and Roberts Ford Lincoln. They're, again, located in Pryor. They have over 2,000 vehicles available between the three lots. And if they don't have what you're looking for, they can and will find it for you if possible and still give you the best deal available. Call Ryan today at 918-693-2866. Again, that's Ryan, 918-693-2866. And tell him Rick from K98 Talk sent you, and they'll even give you a better deal. Can't beat that, folks. We'll be right back.
American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you.
Have a safe and happy 4th of July as we commemorate the birth of our nation. A message from the staff of K98 Talk, the leader in Internet radio.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
Lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of libertative conservatism.
Where no one is safe and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right round.
Ebola radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Has to do with
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
For long calls, we got a pen and telephone to bypass.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. Now, at this point, we will go ahead and continue moving forward with the show. Again, if anybody does wish to call in, the phone lines are open. It's 408-681-8255. Again, that's 408-681-8255. They will be open for the remainder of the show. I do know a couple of people that had said they'd planned on calling in on their ride home from work, so it's possible they may be calling in later. We're going to go ahead and move forward a little bit, though. I want to start giving a little bit of information, as far as I'm concerned, on this ruling by the state Supreme Court. What annoys me is I just spent all night last night with Jared for an hour talking about what a great state that I live in and how we manage to get things right 90% of the time. Now, before anybody freaks out, I'm not coming at this from a religious perspective. I personally don't believe in the separation of church and state. I don't actually think that is part of the Constitution. I think it was something that was interpreted later from some letters, and I don't think it was intended to be used the way it is now. That all being said, I'm not coming at this particular situation from the perspective of this being a religious monument. The simple fact of the matter is, the Western judicial system is based on these 10 things. The entirety of our Western judicial system is based on the 10 Commandments, these 10 things that were supposed to have been passed down by God to Moses. That is what has developed our entire judicial system. So for a bunch of panty-waist activist judges to sit there and say that the foundation for our judicial system cannot be on the steps of a courthouse where it is the judicial system is housed there. How can you say that the 10 Commandments, which is what built the entire system that we have based our justice system on, how can you tell me that you don't think they belong there? How is that even feasible that the 10 Commandments do not belong in a courthouse when the simple fact of the matter is, if it weren't for those 10 Commandments, we wouldn't have the system of justice that we have right now? Why do you think we have an oath against perjury? Thou shalt not lie. Why do you think we tell people they can't kill one another? Thou shalt not kill, which actually should read thou shalt not murder, which is another big problem that the left seems to have, because they always like to bring out thou shalt not kill anytime they're talking about the death penalty, but God forbid it be on the courthouse steps. Everything that is in our justice system is founded on those 10 principles. It is expounded upon, starting with those 10 principles. So for folks that are supposed to be upstanding and upholding those particular, our entire justice system, for them to say that we can't have that on the courthouse steps, that is abhorrent. It is crazy. I mean, and again, this isn't about it being a religious monument. This is about the fact that culturally, these 10 things are significant. They are what has developed most of our entire culture. And yet we're telling everyone at every single turn, they cannot be displayed here because of separation of church and state. So here's my problem with this. If you are saying that we can't do this because we may offend people that don't believe in God, well, as far as I'm concerned, atheism is a religion. So therefore, when you keep saying that this religion can't have their things there, but this religion can, and this religion can't have their things here, but this religion can, then ultimately what you're doing is you are still picking a religion. So why does this have to be this way? Why can we not just look at this as it is intended? And because it wasn't, I mean, look, I'm not a mind reader, so I don't know what the intentions of the folks that decided we needed that monument were. But I can look at it, and I can tell you that as far as I can tell, most likely the way we should be looking at it is exactly how I've said it, and how I'm going to keep saying it. This is a depiction of our entire justice system on 2 tablets. I mean, would it be different if they decided to not do it where they look like tablets, because then we're not actually displaying the 10 Commandments? I think at that point we're basically being stupid. Because even people that don't believe in God have to understand that our judicial system is founded on those 10 precepts. Everything that is in those 10 precepts is what has led to our judicial system. And for someone who's, again, and I know I'm repeating myself, but you have to understand just how completely irritated I am by this. I have been irritated for days because every time I turn around, everything that I believe in, everything that I hold dear is basically being slapped back in my face. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't give a damn who sleeps with who. It's none of my business. I don't give a damn who wants to live with who. That's none of my business either. But when it does become my business is when it starts being flaunted publicly. And that leads me to something that the wife and I were talking about just before I went on air. My wife actually went out to get us dinner this evening so that I could eat before I did the show instead of eating after. So while she was getting our dinner, she was in a building, I'm not going to mention it, not even going to mention what type of food it was, but while she was waiting on our order to be completed, there was a lesbian couple there in there, and they were all over each other in front of everybody. And look, I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't care what you do in your bedroom, but when you start trying to flaunt it publicly, then I have a problem. Gay, straight, pink with purple polka dots, I don't care. You don't need to do that kind of stuff in public. that leads to conversations that people may not want to have yet with their children. Whether you're straight, gay, doesn't make any difference. It still may lead to a conversation that somebody may not want to have with a 5-year-old yet. Because you are being disrespectful. This is my point. I have been disrespectful every time I have discussed the gay marriage situation, and I've told everybody exactly what I think. But then I have told every single one of you that I cannot force what I think on other people. Because that is my religious belief. But this is not forcing anything on anybody. This is paying homage to the fact that these 10 precepts started our whole way of life. How can that be a bad thing? How can it be a bad thing to say, hey, we want the 10 Commandments in a courthouse. We want the 10 Commandments in a school. Because those 10 Commandments are the foundation of our entire society. Whether you want to say they were handed down by God or pinned by a madman, I really don't care what your personal perspective is, but you cannot take away the fact that those founded our society. You may not like it, but you cannot change the fact that they founded our society. And for all of you that keep saying all of this stuff about separation of church and state, when we finally give into this argument, that's going to be how they're going to start removing things like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Because they use words and pay homage to things like a creator. They mention phrases like, in the year of our Lord. They say how man was created, not spun from a petri dish. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is, if we do not hold our ground, at some point we're going to lose everything. And if, at this point, I can't paint you any clearer of a picture than what is going on in front of us right now this week and what has been going on all week. And I have to tell you, for the last few days, I haven't wanted to turn on the microphone. I haven't wanted to sit in front of you, and I haven't wanted to talk because I have been so angry, so completely angry, because every time I turn around, everything that I know should happen, because I'm not an idiot and I understand how the law is supposed to work and how it should work, is being flaunted and thrown right back in my face. Because the simple fact of the matter is, the Obamacare situation was a complete joke that should never have been done. I'm not even talking about the gay marriage thing. I'm talking about Obamacare. That ruling from the Supreme Court, the actual federal Supreme Court, that was the craziest thing I've ever heard. Because they basically took the language of the bill and said, well, and now the language of the law, and they said, well, I don't think Congress meant this the way they wrote it. That's not their job. Their job is to say, unfortunately, we are required to interpret the letter of the law. This particular law does state that state exchanges, if not created, those states cannot receive federal benefits for their health care. If Congress meant this otherwise, they need to fix it, and they strike it down and send it back to the state legislature or the federal legislature. And then they go over it again. If that was what they meant to do, they need to fix the wording. But they didn't do that. They just said, and this is from Justice Roberts, for God's sake. He just said, well, I don't think they meant it the way that everybody's taking it, so we're just going to make it to where the federal exchange is now the state exchange. At this point, if your state did not set up an exchange, we are now going to take the interpretation of the letter of this law and state it to mean that in states that did not set up their state exchanges, the federal exchange is going to step in and supersede the state exchange that should have been set up. So therefore, there is no continuity issue. Now, that's me paraphrasing, of course, but that's basically the gist of his statement. Is, well, we know it said state exchanges, but federal exchange is pretty close, right? There's only one thing, and I really wish at some point I could actually do this while I was talking to Justice Roberts, but I do have one particular thing I've always wanted to do while I'm reading through his stuff. This is what I hear almost every time I start reading through one of his opinions. I start hearing this in my head over and over and over again, because I read a sentence and then I hear this.
My God, are you still talking?
And then I read another sentence, and I hear this again.
My God, are you still talking?
And I mean, when are we going to wake up? We cannot continue to have a judiciary body that does legal activism. That's not what that branch is intended for. That branch is to be the umpire, or the referee, if you will, between the legislative branches and the executive branches, so that they can make sure that everything remains fair and impartial and in tune with the letter of the law. I mean, and for everybody that keeps wanting to talk about this whole separation of church and state thing, again, if we lose this argument at this point, we're screwed, because eventually they'll remove every single document that has ever meant anything to this nation because of the wording of those documents. Because whether you want to believe it or not, a good majority of the founding fathers were Christians. I know, I can already hear Dave, no, so-and-so was a deist and blah, blah, blah. Really, does it matter that they called God something else? Because they still believed in something, did they not? Instead of nothing, like the majority of folks believe in today. So yes, they were careful in some of their word choices when they used words like creator instead of mentioning God by name. But there is also, I believe, a section that talks about the God of our fathers. Fathers meaning, of course, ultimately going all the way back to Abraham. Then we have over and over again, anytime date is mentioned in those particular documents, it's the year of our Lord, such and such. If we don't stand up now, if we don't let our voices be heard, at some point they're going to strike down everything that has made this country what it is. And they're a hell of a lot closer than any of us want to admit. Look at what they've already done with the internet. They have passed net neutrality. Again, it's a nice little pretty package hiding a bunch of snakes. But nobody bothered to open up the package and see all the different controls they were giving to the federal government on something that is considered a world property. But the issue is, we were the ones, especially if you listen to Al Gore, that invented the internet. So why shouldn't we be the ones to control it? Why shouldn't we? Why isn't it our right? I mean, at this point, the internet has now become the new open territories. And we're basically using manifest destiny to assume control of the internet, even though up until now it's been free to everyone, and everybody has been able to get access to it in one form or another. Now all of a sudden the government needs to step in and start regulating. So, and this all ties back together, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not. We have net neutrality, which I've heard a lot of folks say won't really impact or affect anything because we're not part of a world government yet. Well, thanks to TPP, we are now going to be officially part of a world government. It may wind up being a governing council and not exactly what it is that we expected, with, central head of power and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But we are now officially part of a one, or at least a two world government, because, we're going to wind up having the same thing happen with the transatlantic. So there'll be two separate councils for a while. But what happens? I mean, seriously, what do you honestly think is going to happen with all of this? All right, well, it is about time for us to take another break. As we get ready to do that, I do want to mention some friends to you. I want to tell you about a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. Again, when I did actually run a security agency for a time, nearly 12 years. I actually worked with one of the partners involved in this agency, and between the two of the partners, the two partners that there are, they have 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep either you, your customers, or maybe even your residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Go ahead and give them a call. Their number is 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Tell them Rick sent you so they know the ad's doing them some good. All right, so at this point, folks, we are going to wind up having to get out of here to take another quick break. We are down to about the last half hour of the show. We'll be right back with you here in just a couple seconds right here on Finding Common Ground. On America Off the Rails. We will be right back.
Don't expect equality, respect, or fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberty conservative.
Where no one is safe, and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
This is Misty, owner of Wax It Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
All right, folks, we're back. We're live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We are into the last 30 minutes of the show. Thanks to everybody who's tuned in. Again, the lines are open if you have any input on this whole Supreme Court ruling here in the state of Oklahoma about the 10 Commandments. At this point, I do want to go ahead and continue with that. And just, again, I'm so disappointed. I really am. Overall, with everything that's happening right now, it just seems like every time I turn around, everything that I believe in is basically just being slapped around and slapped down. And, you know, that's hard to take. You know, I understand there's lots of folks that aren't Christians, and right now they're dancing around saying it's about time that you guys got some of what we've been dealing with for the longest time. And, you know, maybe I hadn't noticed it, and I don't know, but I can tell you that for all of the people that keep talking about separation of church and state and this, that, and the other, there are, again, so many instances where we know that that was not what the founders intended. They didn't intend the government to establish a religion, but they didn't intend you to not be able to practice your religion either. They didn't intend you to not be able to go into public areas that were government funded and not be able to display things in regards to your religion. And I understand that that is a slippery slope when it comes to some folks, but I'll be the first one to tell you, as long as the faith system that I believe in is there, I think that system is better than any of the other ones that's out there. So I don't care what they put up next to mine. As far as I'm concerned, it's no different than in Exodus when Moses fought the Pharisees' soothsayers. And basically at one point God said to Moses, I'm bigger than any of these other pretenders, and I will prove it to them. And that's exactly what he did. So all of these people that are all like, well, if we put one thing up there, then we have to have something else up there, and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You know what? I'm fine with that. Because I still know what I believe, and I know who I think controls the universe, and I'm pretty sure he can handle himself. Now, this is another reason why I don't get all bent out of shape when it comes to the gay marriage situation, because the person or the creator of the universe who made every single person here gave every single one of us free will. That means I cannot impose upon you the belief system that I have. I can hold you accountable should you profess that belief system if I don't feel that you're living up to it accordingly. That is my calling as a fellow believer. And believe me, I have folks that chastise me all the time. And I take it with a grain of salt and I keep on moving because we don't like it when people chastise us. But at the same time, it's time for some major chastisement in our government. And I'm just going to be completely honest about that because, again, the judicial overreach that is going on both now at the state level and the federal level is appalling to me. Because, again, yes, the Ten Commandments are a religious symbol. In that context, if you hold the separation of church and state, which I do not, then you might have a grounds to say that it shouldn't be on there. But if you look at it from a cultural perspective, there's no reason that monument should not be allowed there, especially on the steps of a courthouse, where that monument is basically the foundation of that courthouse. How can you tell me that it is not okay for them to be there? I think that the state Supreme Court completely missed the mark because they looked at it solely as a religious monument. It is not a religious monument. It is a cultural monument because without those 10 commandments, our society would not exist. And I submit to you today that one of the reasons our society has gone the way it is, and before anybody says it's not that bad, I remind you of Ferguson. I remind you of the riots in New York City where police officers were shot down in cold blood. I remind you of the chanting in the streets. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now. We have become a society of emotional overshots. We get completely amped up on emotion. We no longer think logically, and then whatever comes out of our mouth is whatever we're stuck with. And that disturbs me beyond belief. We have become this knee-jerk society where, oh, we can't do this because this might offend people. Or, because, and here's the thing. And here's the thing, and this just occurred to me on the ride home. Somebody on another show started talking about a similar thing, and it just dawned on me. As a concealed carry permit holder, my rights are infringed on every single day. For everybody who's talking about how people not making cakes for gay couples, or not making Muslim cakes or swastika cakes or whatever freaking kind of cake that you want to say that you don't want to have to make, everybody starts screaming about how their rights are infringed upon. As someone who can legally carry a weapon, my rights are infringed upon every single day because there are businesses that have decided we don't want to serve your kind here because you carry a weapon. So either you put the weapon in the car or you leave. Now, granted, there's not very much teeth to this stuff, especially here in the state of Oklahoma. In case you didn't know, if you do have a concealed carry permit and you violate that sign, the most they can do is charge you with trespassing. But, that being said, basically I have to choose between my Second Amendment rights and my freedom to shop. A lot. Now, I ask you, how is that fair? For all of these people that are screaming and yelling about how their rights are infringed upon every single day, how is it fair that for those people with concealed carry permits, or even open carry permits, depending on the situation and what's available in your particular state, how is it okay? How is it okay that business owners can refuse to serve anyone who decides to bring a gun in, but they can't refuse service to someone who wants to bake a cake that to them is offensive? And I know I'm talking about the cake baking thing, and I know it's such a cliche thing anymore. So what, gay souffles, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't understand anymore how we have become this namby-pamby knee-jerk society. And I said this the other day, whenever I first started seeing the post going around about Farrakhan calling for the removal of the American flag. If this is the country that we've become, a country that lets symbolism influence completely who we are when it comes to things like flags, and I understand the Ten Commandments is yet another symbol, but if we're going to become a society that lets nothing but symbolism influence us, then we have bigger problems than I thought. Yes, I disagree with their decision, but I disagree with it on a multitude of levels, and it's not just because it's a symbol. It's because of what it represents. That represents the foundation of our very judicial system, which is a cornerstone of our society. And for judges who are part of that judicial system to say those do not belong here, what do you think is going to happen to our judicial system if they start to turn their backs on things like the Ten Commandments? When they tell you that the foundation of our judicial system does not belong on the steps of a courthouse, what do you think is going to happen to our judicial system within the next decade or so? And I'm telling you, it's all by design. This was all such a slow process for so long that nobody noticed. And now all of a sudden we have everything basically attacking our way of life and our society all at once. And I bring to your attention again, TPA, TPP. I bring to your attention again Obamacare, which is basically systematically destroying insurance companies. And I bring to your attention again these recent rulings in other scenarios that have brought things out that now we have 16 and 17-year-old children that are now trying to find ways to petition attorneys to file equal rights suits. We now have all of the folks that now want to change pedophilia to "I'm born this way. You have to help me. You don't have to like it, but you can't judge me anymore because I was born this way. It's not my fault that I'm wired to love children." So what do you think is going to now again, this is just me playing, way out in left field, which is where I tend to stay, and then everybody makes fun of me and picks on me and tells me I'm crazy, and then a few years down the road, everything that I've been telling you for the last 3 years is going on right now. So, let's just put on that far-out machine hat again for just a second. What do you suppose is going to happen if, within a couple of decades, children at certain ages are able to sue for civil rights and equitability under the law, and then they want to go have sex with 40 and 50-year-old men and women? They have equal rights now, right? I'm telling you. We are about to lose the entire foundation of our society. And everybody can tell me that I am crazy all they want to. It doesn't change the fact that we are about to lose our entire way of life, and we are watching it happen, and we are doing nothing about it. Now, you may ask, why do I keep coming back to this? Why do I keep mentioning how we're basically doing a bunch of complaining and doing absolutely nothing about it? So let me tell you why I keep bringing that up. That is because even though it is not in my district and I cannot vote, I would like to bring something to your attention. There is someone who is trying to primary John Boner Boehner. That is Mr. J.D. Winteregg, who was running for Congress for 2016. Now, I want to read you some information from his website, then I'm going to give you the link to his website. Now, I don't care if you're in Oklahoma, I don't care if you're in California, I don't care if you're in New Hampshire, I don't care if you're in Puerto Rico. If you are a conservative and you want to bring conservative values back to Congress, the first step to do that is to get rid of Boner. And yes, I know, I called him Boner. Again, I call him that every time. Orangey orange, Boner, wrinkly, I don't care what you want to call him, but the simple fact of the matter is the dude's got to go. So I want to read this to you right here. I'm challenging Speaker Boner in the 2016 Republican primary. The only way for this challenge to work, however, is to have enough money to finance what we know we need to do. We know through our internal polling that he's vulnerable. What we also know is how to beat him. Please donate now. If you would prefer to donate by check, you can mail to, and then the address is listed there. Now, as of right now, they are a little over 50% towards their goal. They have $12,911.76 raised out of $20,000. So I don't care if it's $2, I don't care if it's $5, I don't care if it's 50 cents. If you want Boehner gone, then you need to donate. And I will be doing it this week. I will be putting my money where my mouth is. It may not be very much because I ain't got much, but I will be giving money because at this point I think Boehner, otherwise known as Boner or Orangey Orange, has really, really got to go. I mentioned Mr. Winteregg because I just found out the other night that he will be on Red Nation Rising Radio here in the next few weeks, and he has already actually done an appearance on JD and Stacy shows. So at this point, I'm just jumping in with Stacey and a few other folks that are trying to get the word out for this guy, because we have got to start primarying these rhinos. And Boehner is nothing but a rhino. I mean, you can't even call this man a Republican anymore. I don't even think he deserves to be called a rhino, because he's not even a Republican in name only. He's just a douche. And we have all of these people that are the establishment Republicans that are just out for themselves. And he is the biggest one of them right now. And we have got to do something about that. And this guy is our only hope to do that. I'm telling you right now, if you are not paying attention now, I don't know what else I can do. Because this country is in a shambles. This country is in a mess. We have the highest labor unparticipation rate ever. We have the most people on food stamps. We have unemployment numbers that, if we saw the actual unemployment numbers, would be completely crazy. I mean, I saw a post today that gave the black unemployment and the black teen unemployment and said, no big deal. Gays can marry each other now, so that's good. And those numbers were crazy. But nobody's talking about those numbers because they don't care. Because they want us to be controlled. The people that have established themselves and ensconced themselves as part of our federal government system want nothing but to retain their control. They don't give a damn about me and you anymore. And I tell you this from someone who used to think that there were at least more than a handful of conservatives in D.C., but they are gone. They are gone. They have been chewed up and spit out by the machine, and what is left is a shell of who they once were, and all they are doing is looking out for themselves. I firmly believe that at some point when Boehner went to D.C., he had the best of intentions. But at some point along the way, it's like the new Terminator movie. I mean, let's just look at this from a different perspective right now. I'm going to assume that by now everybody's seen the trailer. I was really surprised that they keep bringing this part out in the trailer, because that would have been a great twist for early on in the movie if you didn't know. But the whole John Connor scenario, the man who eventually would be leading the revolution against the machines. Again, an interesting parallel, because all of that started with the best of intentions. People to be free. People to have the ability to do the things that they want to do and not be under someone's thumb, whether it's mechanical or biological. In this case, we're under thumb and it's biological. In that case, it was mechanical. But the issue is, in this newest incarnation of the film, John Connor is now, he's either a Terminator himself or some sort of a man-machine hybrid. So he's actually joined the other side. This is exactly what Boehner has done. He's no longer fighting for us. He's no longer fighting for his constituency. He's only looking out for himself. And if anything, the last week has taught me this. We have got to get more active. We have got to get more involved. We have got to get more engaged. We have got to raise our voices. We have got to make these people understand that they work for us, not the other way around. And the only way to do that is to fire the ones that are repeatedly giving us the finger. This guy not only is giving us the finger, he's doing it with both barrels. Repeatedly. It is time for him to go. So I urge you today, if you are hearing my voice, whether it's on amfm247.com, whether it is on Spreaker, whether it's on K98 Talk, whether it's through .com or .org, whether it is through the SparkRadioNetwork.com, whether it's through iHeart, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player FM, anywhere that you know of where you can find this show. I don't care how you're listening to me. If you can hear my voice and you've got $5, then pitch it in. Let's get rid of Boehner. That's the first step. We have got to get rid of Boehner, because we have got to get actual conservative control of the houses of Congress again, because we have Republican control, but they are not conservatives. They call themselves Republicans, but they are not. And at this point, if this doesn't change, I will be forced to stop calling myself a Republican, because I cannot side with these idiots anymore. These nozzles, I swear to God, they are trying to destroy our country, and we're sitting back going, la 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 la, can I have some more ice cream, please? I really, really am enjoying this Keeping Up with the Kardashians show. I wonder how many times a week it's on. Oh, look, my TV dinner's done. Yay! That's basically the American people today. Not all of us. Not those of you that are paying attention. But there are so many of us that are getting our information spoon-fed. And I don't care where you're getting it from if you're getting it spoon-fed. Because let's face it, Fox News is just as crazy as everybody else. They were running pro-TPA and TPP ads before the votes. Because the only thing they care about is who's giving them money. They'll run whatever you want as long as you've got the money to pay for it. That's what proved to me that we don't have anybody that is basically not out looking for their bottom line anymore. Whether it's a news agency, whether it's a politician, the only thing they care about is lining their own damn pockets. That is not what these two professions were envisioned to be. There's a reason we have a freedom of the press. It was to make sure that, and it's no different than the freedom of religion, and yet they've managed to corrupt that too, and nobody was paying any attention. They took freedom of the press and they've completely twisted it sideways. And now we have nothing to show for it but a bunch of mouthpieces. Mouthpieces on the left, mouthpieces on the right, everybody in the middle, and they're all a bunch of mouthpieces. And we have nothing, absolutely nothing to show for it anymore. Except for, oh look, this, when they talked about this and when they showed Ferguson burning, oh my God, look at the market share. Look at how many viewers we had when all the rioting was going on. Never mind the fact that people lost their lives. Never mind the fact that during this whole recent flap up from this last time, that everybody stopped talking about the fact that everybody came together in South Carolina and they were praying for one another and they were praying about the situation. They were praying for the families that lost loved ones. Nobody was talking about that because that doesn't sell ad revenue. And then the Confederate situation came up, and then, oh my God, everybody was talking about it. And then the gay marriage thing came up, and everybody was talking about it. And then I started seeing people that I know that are pro-homosexuality, and they started talking about this new thing on Facebook where supposedly there's been a thing that makes an American flag filter that you can basically put that on your picture if you are anti-gay marriage. Let me tell you something, you dumbasses. That's not what that was about. If you go look, what it specifically says is, let's give you the opportunity to show your American pride this coming 4th of July. If you click this button, it will give you a flag overpaint on your Facebook photo. But there's all these people who are like, oh my God, have you seen this thing where now if you're anti-gay marriage, you can have this thing that puts an American flag over your profile picture and stupid blah, blah, blah. I mean, and did you bother to read it before you just decided to go off and say, well, since that person doesn't have a rainbow flag and they have an American flag over their profile, then obviously they're trying to say that they're anti-gay marriage. No. What they're trying to say probably is, hey, it's almost the 4th of July. So, hey, happy 4th of July. You know, in this country that used to mean freedom, that used to stand for the land of the free and home of the brave. Now it's the land of the free stuff and the home of the depraved. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to sustain ourselves. Because we have created such a generation of dependency. And now we have plenty of people that are starting to wake up and realize exactly how bad things have gotten. So now the folks that thought they had plenty of time and they could keep moving slowly and they could keep doing things incrementally, it seems like everything is hitting and happening all at once. All right, well, that's going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. I am your host, Rick Robinson. We will be back with you tomorrow right here on our home station on K98Talk.com. Do want to thank everybody for tuning in. As you can see, there is a reason I don't open the phone lines very often because we don't seem to get much feedback this early in the day. At some point, when I get a new studio set up, I may actually move my show a little bit later, see if maybe we can get some feedback, because I'm a bit more of a night owl anyway, so I'm hoping maybe a later time slot we'll get some folks interested, and because we get lots of listeners and lots of live listeners, but for some reason they don't really like to call in. I'm hoping to be able to change that. But at this point, folks, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. Again, I am Rick Robinson. This is America Off the Rails, and I will be right back with you right here live tomorrow. I know I'm discouraged. I know I sound angry, but I tell you, at this point, don't give up yet. We still have time. We still have hope. We're going to do what we can do, and that's all we can do. I'll be back with you tomorrow.
Don't.